Being the closest poll I've ever put out on this channel, I decided we had to tackle the top 3 choices here before moving on. Let's have a look at Starfleet lieutenants on this edition of...
Yeah, it's the best 5, worst 5, no one has seen. Yeah, it's the best 5, worst 5 Trek's ever seen.
I learned more researching lieutenants than any other Starfleet rank I've yet talked about on this channel. Seemingly, the entire background cast of TOS is either non-commissioned or a lieutenant. We'll be ranking the topic based on their seeming merits and disgraces to Starfleet. Starting at 5th worst. Women and children last. Barnus Frex, for some confusing reason, wears both a provisional insignia and lieutenant's pips. The farthest posting in the Federation aboard a communications array seems like the perfect posting for this guy, who abandons the station in the only accessible escape pod over the kids of Protostar's safety, only to go on to embellish his story at every turn, both at a cold station he crashed on and later to Admiral Janeway. Out of this worst list, at least he didn't actually kill anyone. Number 4. Co-conspirator. Again, while not actually killing anyone with her own hands, Lieutenant Valeris in Star Trek VI facilitates the murders and attempts on high-ranking members of the Klingon Empire and Federation. She's the quiet bad guy wonderfully unmasked in the penultimate act of a crime drama. Kim Cattrall gave an amazing performance of this logical yet diabolical link in the plot to overthrow both the Klingon and Federation governments. Number 3. Crime of passion. Whatever value Walter Pierce once had to Starfleet is just a cloud of vapor now. As he commits a crime of passion Deanna Troi experiences in an empathic echo, going back to the building of the Enterprise D at Utopia Planitia shipyard. After murdering his girlfriend and her lover, he threw himself into the nacelle plasma jets. While at least a crime we can understand the logic of, not Starfleet's best asset. Number 2. Justifiable logic. If you think about something long enough, you can probably come up with some logical reason it needs to happen, even if it's something terrible. This is where we find Lieutenant Chulak, who's gunning down people for being too happy with possibly the coolest combustion weapon ever in a sci-fi setting. With so few poor showings at this rank, the mental break that caused Chulak's deterioration does nothing to exonerate him here. And the worst lieutenant. Number 1. Genocide on a Tuesday. Out of all the officers that participated in the use of transdimensional beings as fuel scheme, Maxwell Burke, B'Elanna's old academy buddy, seems to be the most comfortable with it. While Captain Ransom sees it as a horrible means to an end that he tries to live with, Max's conscience never seems to bother him in this two-parter, and doesn't seem to give a second thought to attacking Voyager. Even when Ransom shows he has some amount of sympathy for what's happening, Max takes control of the ship and is easily the worst lieutenant we've ever seen depicted in Star Trek by a wide margin. At least he got what was coming to him in the end. As we fill in that hollow pip headed into the best lieutenants, if you're enjoying the program, please consider a like and subscribe. At 5th best, duty bound. Not everyone will likely recognize the name Lieutenant Sahil. His alarm clock is probably more recognizable. This person took it upon themselves with no formal induction to play the role of a Starfleet officer aboard a relay station largely cut off from the collapsing Federation after the burn, and took over caring for the station after the death of his actual Starfleet officer father. It's not till Burnham shows up at his door that he's semi-officially inducted as a provisional officer. By the end of Season 3, there's a brief scene where, for his years of dedication and service, he's given a proper lieutenant commission, and it seems well-deserved. Number 4. Green-blooded growth. In his multiple stints in Starfleet, Tuvok touched many lives, and most of them in the Delta Quadrant as lieutenant, probably the most prototypical Vulcan we were introduced to in the show's first run. Tuvok doesn't have the half-human streak fans had come to know in Spock, and was at first rigid and inflexible. As the show progresses, he both maintains his rigid discipline, but cracks appear in tiny ways as he learns to trust his instinct and even tolerate his sometimes irritating comedic relief Neelix. He really is one of Starfleet's greatest assets. Number 3. Lieutenant at heart. The Dak symbiont has held the rank of lieutenant at least 3 times across hosts. Between Curzon's diplomatic skills with Klingons, Jadzia's ability to size up a scientific situation, and Ezri's deductive reasoning and counseling skills add up to Starfleet's cream of the crop. While Jadzia likely did her most influential work as a lieutenant commander captaining the Defiant, there's absolutely no doubt how much of an impact one Trill symbiont has had on the galactic stage over several centuries. Number 2. Ultimate Sacrifice. This entry is for 2 Starfleet lieutenants that gave their lives willingly for the sake of duty. Richard Castillo and Nadia Larkin. 2 lieutenants that took over for captains under extreme crisis situations with little chance of survival. Castillo is the only reason the Prime Star Trek universe is even maintained. And while Larkin clearly did not want to be in the position she was in, she would have jumped any distance if Starfleet said how high? This high. They may be gone, but their sacrifices are not forgotten. The most influential Starfleet lieutenant? At number 1. Man of Mystery. While Julian Bashir started as an over-the-top, fresh out of the academy, LT junior grade, he develops into one of the greatest characters in the franchise. While all doctors in Trek save innumerable lives, and not just because of his late-in-the-game reveal of being genetically engineered. He has an unwavering compassion for all who need medical help, even the Federation's enemies. He will engulf himself in research for months at a time to cure insufferable plagues, but will begrudgingly pick up a weapon if the situation calls for it. The man who enjoys playing a spy in his spare time, though, will not break his morals to join the secretive Section 31 when they try to recruit him, and even spends time trying to take down the organization. Though, if rumors are true, we may see Bashir back as the head of the organization later in his life. Who's your favorite lieutenant in Starfleet?